Hi there, I'm Construction Gamer and this is a Courseplay tutorial for Farming Simulator 19. In this episode I'll be showing you how I automate the silage harvest, but this time I'll be showing you how I do it with the combined bale and bale wrapper trailers, much like this one. This is the the Claas Rollant 455, and this basically does the baling and the wrapping in one pass. You'll probably be fairly familiar with these if you've played the game for a while. You can set these up with Courseplay. There is a new one as well with the Kverneland DLC, which I will also be taking a look at. First of all, I'm going to go through a couple of different setups that I'm using. So basically, I've got the cheapest setup I can possibly find. I don't use all these tractors. I reckon you can do it. You can do it with 2 tractors minimum, but a third is always better, I think. I've just added all the tractors needed here just for the sake of time more than anything else, just to speed up the process of showing you all the different steps. So this is the setup that I use. So basically on my sort of serious playthrough I'm using the Fendt 4FRIT 515, the JCB Fast Track, and I've got a Massey Ferguson 3090 as well. The little tractor, the little Massey, is usually used for the rake, but I do put it on the Joskin the harrow as well. No, it's not a harrow. What is it? It is in something. Crop protection? No. Weeders? It is maybe a weeder. Yeah, the Scariflex R5 S3, which basically, if you put this down on the first growth cycle of grass, you can actually fertilise the grass, and it's just like you're scarifying the actual field, which is a realistic sort of thing that you might want to do on your farm. So yeah, that's just one of the things I use the little Massey for. But now I just want to get straight in with this first one. Like I said, I'll do some timestamps, so if you just want to head straight to the Kverneland setup with the mowers, with the triple mowers which have the auto merging and the Kverneland bale wrapper and baler combo, then skip forward to that. But if you just want to see quickly how I set up this basic arrangement, because it's slightly different with this mower setup with the offset, but you get basically a 6 metre mower for not really much money, and at the same time it doesn't require that much power. So this Fendt here has got top power about 150, and this seems to be able to run this mower setup quite well, and it is like 6 metres, so it's better than just using the disc bind, let's say, an extra 2 metres on top of that. So the first thing we're going to do is right click on the screen with the mouse and you'll get Courseplay, and then we're going to click on, if it's not already, onto field work, and then we're going to go into course generation. Now what field are we in here? I think we're in, I've split this field up just because it was absolutely enormous, and I just wanted to have 2 different areas on which I could mow and collect some grass. So we've got the Courseplay open, course generation. I think I've put this onto 38, hopefully, yeah, 38. Headland, I usually, when I'm mowing, I go for about 3 headland passes. Sometimes with the offset mower it will just say it's only 3 metres, but if you've got a front mower attached then it is 6 metres, so you want to set that to 6 like so, and then up down, that's all fine. Headland overlap, I set that down to about 5. Corners smooth, that's all fine, and then we're just going to generate the course, and you can see there we've got our course laid in. Now if you were just to play that course without setting anything else up, it might just leave strips of uncut grass around the edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse to just behind the starting section there, and you can already see if I line this up, let's say just with the tractor on the centre of that waypoint there, you can see it's missing a big gap there. So what you need to do is go into this one here, what's that say, mode specific settings, and then you want to go to your horizontal offset and just move that over. I think with this setup it's about 1 metre just to the left. Obviously the actual mower itself is offset to the right, but as you can see, you got a visual representation there, so it is an offset of 1 metre to the left like so, and then just go to the first waypoint, I'll leave it from there, and you will see what will happen is the tractor will drive off towards the left ever so slightly, like so, and basically it's the centre line of this vehicle now is about here somewhere, so about a metre offset for this particular setup will give you good coverage and good, it will basically act as a 6 metre mower, which is what you want really, especially if you're using this this setup. It's probably one of the better starting setups to use. I think it's one of the most cost effective. You can, if you do like the starting, if you do the one where basically you don't start with anything, any field, any machinery, anything, then you can do this maybe with a little loan of about 200,000, which isn't a huge deal, and you can start to make some money really quickly with this sort of setup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let him do a little bit of mowing. I'm going to let him do the headland, and then I will jump into the rake and I'll show you the rake setup with this little Massey. I've also got this Fendt rake here as well. What I'll do is I will drop a link to my blog in the description below, and if there's any mods I am using on this, then you can check those out. I am using another mod as well, which is the bale no roll, or something similar to that. I don't think that is actually on the workshop. It might have been, but I've had it for quite a while, and what it basically does is it stops the bales from rolling, and I think that is probably a crucial mod to have, especially with Courseplay. It's not so, if you're just doing this manually, it wouldn't be such of an issue, because you can back off and put the bales on the sides and things like that just to stop the rolling away. But if you're using Courseplay, as soon as bales start rolling around, you do really start to get into trouble, because if a vehicle which is being controlled by Courseplay hits a bale, then you're in all sorts of trouble, and things start going wrong very quickly. So yeah, no roll bales. If you haven't got that mod already, I will put that in my blog with a full list of the mods that I'm using. So yeah, just thought I would mention that. So I'm going to let him do a bit of mowing, and then we're going to come in with the rake and show you how to set up the rake and bale system. Okie dokie, so the mowing is finished now. Just one thing that I noticed as it was mowing, it was leaving a little tiny bit of a strip, and what I forgot to mention was the vehicle specific options, settings rather. It's fourth in from the right, just see those buttons there. You might find that the working width here in the vehicle specific settings is set to 3 meters. What you want to do, you need to change that, as well as setting it in the actual course generation. You might want to set it in this as well, so 6.1 meters working width. Now there is a tiny bit of an overlap, well not tiny bit, there's quite a bit of an overlap between these two mowers here, but you should be able to get a 6 meter mow out of these, and you just want to make sure that your tool offset. So once you've set the working width here, go back to the mode specific settings and then change the tool offset horizontal to something usually between 1 and 1.2 will do the trick, but you might want to play around with that depending on the actual tractor itself. So just something to be aware of when you're using this setup early on in the game, but it still works pretty well once you've fine-tuned the actual widths and overlaps and things like that. So that's the mowing done. The next thing we want to do is the raking. Now, I've already done a bit of raking, just setting things up, but I'm going to show you how to set the course anyway, because that's what you're here for, I guess. So I'm going to cancel that off, and I'm actually going to delete this course that I've already set up, just so we can go through the process from beginning to end. So we're in the field, that we've just mowed. There is a bit of rake going on, but ignore that. And then we want to go obviously to field work again, course generation. We're in field 38, we want our headland to be around, that's fine. Headland passes with a rake, I would suggest 2 is more than wide enough, with a 9 metre rake anyway. And basically on this, we're going to set the working width to 9.3, which is the working width of this particular Fendt rake that we're working with. Headland overlap, I guess about 5 should be more than enough for this, because I think that's more for seeding and things like that, when you want a little bit of an overlap, just to make sure that the seeding is done well. Now the only different thing that we're going to do with this one is the actual field centre. Normally this would be by default up down, which is perfectly fine in most circumstances, but we're working with the Claas Rollant here, which is quite a wide, it's long, it's a long vehicle, isn't it? It's quite long, so the turning circle on this is more than the 9 metres or 18 metres. It would be 9 metres, wouldn't it, with this? So what we need to do, you can adjust the turning circle, but it does need quite a wide turning circle, that Rollant baler in particular. The Kverneland one is a lot more compact and can actually turn around in the 9 metres that you have raked, but just something to be aware of. So when we go into course generation, what we're going to do, instead of going field centre, we're going to go racetrack, and what this does, it does almost like a skip row. Now there is a spiral option as well, which you could also use, and what that basically does, it's almost like a never-ending headland in effect, so it'll just keep doing the headland and it will spiral inwards. That's another option you could use. There's lands, I'm not familiar with lands, so I'm going to stick with racetrack, which seems to work. So when I click on that, you'll see usually this would go yellow, orange and then to red in a more even way, but this actually does like a skip road sort of thing. So basically the tractor will drive along a little bit and then go down alternate rows, and it just gives the tractor pulling the Rollant a bit more of a turning circle. So what we're going to do is we're going to save this. So what I normally do is just the number of the field, which is 38 in this instance, and then we're going to go rake and collect, because this is a 2-part or a multi-use course. So we're going to set this going. So this is first waypoint, going back a little bit just to make sure we are behind the first waypoint, and then we're just going to click go. And obviously we've done a little bit of raking, but I'm just going to let this rake this entire field with this course that we've recorded, and then we'll come in with the baler and wrapper and I'll show you that in action as well. Okie dokie, so he's finished raking this field. Now it's quite actually a big field, especially for a 9 metre rake, but it's going to get a good yield of grass at least. Now once you've done that, obviously just cancel off the course and we just move this out of the way. You might have used one of your other tractors, say if you only had 2 for example, but it doesn't really make much difference to this. So next thing we want to jump into, we're going to jump into this JCB with the Claas on the back. Now all we need to do is really straightforward, is just use the course from the actual rake itself. So we're going to drive to just beyond the start point there. You can see actually I've got a full lock on that. I know the JCB Fast Track hasn't got a particularly great turning circle, but you can see the actual Claas itself does struggle with corners a little bit, so it is better to use that racetrack or a skip row sort of arrangement. What we're going to do is cancel off any courses we had, go into there, and we've got the 38 rake and collect, load that up, and the start point is all the way back here. Never mind, let's just drive just till we're just behind that start point there. Now a couple of things to mention. Let's say for example you've used this fast track to do the mowing and you did that offset. If you've only got say 2 or 3 tractors for example, just need to make sure, so we're going to go into here, we're going to go to field work. We've already loaded the course, but we just want to make sure that we haven't got any offset basically. So if you've used this same tractor for mowing, it might have the tool offset horizontal already saved. So yeah, just make sure you've got that in the center position. And what this should do, even though it says working with 2.8, you can ignore that because it will just drive down the center of this here if all being well. So I'm going to go first waypoint like that, I'm going to drive the course, make sure we're in work mode, and hopefully you should lower the collector and start just driving straight down the middle as if he was raking, but obviously where the swath is he's just going to go over that. Now this isn't a continuous baler, so this will stop every so often to unload or discharge its bale before wrapping, but it will carry on driving forward to unload the actual bale itself. So it's getting full now. He's going to stop, unload that bale, and then that will begin wrapping. This all works perfectly fine with Courseplay. I use this setup all the time. Particularly good for starting a farm basically. It's just a real quick way to get some money. So you can see there he's wrapping that. I'm just wrapping these Claas ones in green. I'm going to differentiate them from the Kverneland ones, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later on in the episode. So right, that's the easy bit out the way. That's relatively straightforward because you're just sharing a course between the rake and the baler, so it's not really overly complicated. But what you will need to do is, this is why I say you should have probably two tractors. So the one that's just done say the mowing for example, or the raking perhaps possibly, you want on a bale loader, or if you prefer a telehandler, it's up to you. I just prefer these auto bale collectors because they're just so much quicker. So let's just take a look in the shop. You're probably already familiar with these, but just thought I'd show you. You could, for example, maybe lease the Anderson RBM 2000 if you don't want to take out too much of a loan to buy the Ursus T127. That's got a capacity of 8 bales, whereas for not really that much more money you've got a capacity of 24 bales, and for added realism I would go for the RBM 2000 and for the Ursus T127, just for the simple fact because of the pickup. This picks up bales which have been left on their sides. It's just, again, it depends how realistic you want to play the game, but if the bales are left on the sides, I prefer to have a bale picker upper that it has bales on its side. So let's say for example if you used the, which one is it, I think if you used the bale wrapper, the Z586, the Z856, that would leave bales which are kind of the other way around, so they're left on their ends. So for that you will want to, again it's personal preference, you'll want the RBM Pro 2000, which can pick up bales which have been left on their end. So yeah, just a couple of little things that I like to do just for a bit of added realism. And also what I do as well, I've got this bumper here, I will leave this in the list of mods that I've been using. It's just in weights, it is a mod, but when you work with a headland, sometimes it's not possible to line your tractor up so you are picking bales up like this, especially if you're working in a smaller field perhaps and you just don't have much space. So what I tend to do is, especially with the headland, maybe not in the actual, once we get into the up down rows themselves, you can just about see the corner of that bumper, and I use it as a little bale push. I couldn't find another bale push in the workshop, this is the only one that I've found, and it just pushes the bale in the correct direction. If you're not bothered about realism particularly, then you can just drive up to this bale and it will pick it up normally, but I don't find that very immersive. It just doesn't look as good. So if you're working in the headlands, a little bale pusher like this only costs a few hundred, I think, and you just push the bale, give the bale a little bit of a nudge so it's facing in the right direction, like so, nice and simple, and then just into there like that. Now I'm doing this now because this is a really important stage. Once you've left that baler on the Courseplay course, it will just go till its heart's content, and like I mentioned before, if a driver or a tractor being controlled by Courseplay runs into a bale, then it can cause all sorts of trouble, and it will just go a little bit mad. If sometimes it might be able to push the bale out of the way properly, but sometimes it'll just go on top of the bale, and yeah, you're in trouble then. So what I tend to do, and this is why it's important to have a second tractor on standby, is collect all the bales from the headland at the very least, and that way you're just not having any interference. Once the tractor starts doing the up-down rows, it won't have any bales to crash into. Once the tractor's done the up-down rows, it's not as important because the likelihood of it coming into a bale is just that much more reduced, but there is a very high likelihood of your tractor bumping into a pile of bales on the headlands once it's doing the up-down rows if you leave them. So I'm just going to leave these here for now. I'm using a cheat anyway, just for the purposes of this demonstration. So I'm just going to put them there, like so. And I would suggest, if you don't want to take a loan out, you lease the Anderson version, the RBM 2000, the standard one. I know how much is it to lease. It's about 2,500 initial lease cost and 1,000 a day. Well worth it for those extra bales, because you can see there you can be going backwards and forwards all day with those. So yeah, just get a couple more bales. Make sure this headland's clear before he starts doing his up-down rows. Make sure we don't have any collisions. Oh no, we need to put the actual arm down, don't we? It's not going to get very far without that. So yeah, get that bale in there. I think, yeah, we've only done 2 headland passes because we were working with a 9 metre rake, so that's all fine. Get these last couple, just a little nudge, face it in the right direction, a lot more realistic. I'm not sure, I'm probably wrong about this, but I'm not sure if you would be pushing wrapped bales. You might not want to rip the actual foil on them, but yeah, I just find it a little bit more realistic pushing them. Or when we're on up down rows, is again, this is another thing. In general, I get the idea, get the impression that you're not really supposed to drive over your swaths because it compacts it, and that can have issues with the pickup. So this is a better way of doing it more realistically without driving over your rows. I know it doesn't, within Farming Simulator, it doesn't really matter too much, but yeah, it just depends what level of realism that you want to play at. Okie dokie, so I'm leaving that setup there, just wrapping those last few bales, and I will pick them up later on. Now that I've got the headland done, don't really need to worry about that too much. I can get those bales whenever I want to. Next we are going to step things up a gear. If you've got the new Kverneland DLC, I don't know why I pronounced that twice, then you will have access to this mighty mower here, which is, how wide is it actually? I didn't look how wide it is. It is particularly wide, 10 meters. So we've got a 10 meter mower, and this does the raking at the same time, or the merging rather, because it's not a rake, is it? It's using the belt system. So this, we don't need to have 2 separate courses. I think you can guess what's coming up here. What we're going to do is open Courseplay, go to field work, course generation. This time we are in field 39, which is there, and then we go to headland passes. I guess we're working 10 meters, so we can definitely go 2 headland passes. Headland overlap again, back down to 5. This time the field centre we are going to go up down, because we're going to be using the Kverneland baler, which is a lot more compact, and we are mowing and raking or merging at 10 meters as well, so we've got that extra meter of turning circle. So we're going to do that. We're going to make that course. This field isn't particularly big, but it's big enough. We're going to go to the back of this, and then I'm going to quickly save this course. Don't need any offsets because this is a symmetrical mower. It's butterfly mower, so we don't really need to worry about offsets or anything, or working width. It should automatically know that. But what I just want to do quickly is 39. What I'll do on this, I will do mow and collect, like so. Nice and straightforward. It's just unfold the mower front and back. It will automatically do this once you start the job, but I just want to make sure everything is set up. Let's see when it drops what it does to the belt. So it's lifted the belt up, so what we need to do is, and I'm not sure what the mouse, get off that. Let's see, toggle work mode is control 1. I'm not sure what it is on the Xbox controller I'm doing, but you just need to make sure, doubly make sure that your belts are down. So it's left control and Y lifts the belts up and down. Oh, you've got that one. You've got a whole selection of options there, which is pretty cool. But we want that one there, so we've got a nice merged swath in the middle of the track there, of the course that we are doing. So that's all set up. Let's check, just quickly check our working width's 10 meters. Got no offsets because this is a brand new track that I've just purchased with the mower. And then we're just going to go and get this mowed and collected at the same time, so we don't really need to have to worry about too much, to be honest. It's just going to get on and it's going to do that mowing for us. Okie dokie, so he's finished mowing that field now. Now the only thing I would say about using this setup is the power requirements on the tractor are quite high. I estimate you'd need somewhere in the region of 250 to 280 horsepower in order to power this setup effectively. Otherwise you're just going to be crawling around the field at 6 miles an hour or less. So I've got this, what have I got? It's a John Deere something. 6230 arse, which has got about 280 horsepower, I think, as far as I can remember, which seems to be more than sufficient. Because if you look, I don't think it's as simple as saying there are power requirements of that which are 80 plus that's 200, so that's 280. But I reckon you might be able to get away with about 250 on that with that particular setup. But it is slightly more advanced setup, and you will require that just to you'll be needing to spend about 250,000 to 300,000 on a decent tractor in order to get that system to work. So yeah, let's get this, stop him. He's just arrived from the dealership with the Kverneland bale system. Now this in theory should be a continuous baler. Now this is completely different from the Claas in that it has a twin chamber system, which means it shouldn't ever have to stop to discharge the bales like the Claas Rollant does. But I'm just going to test this out because this is the first time I'm doing it since I updated my Courseplay version to 6.2.37. We're just going to get the course, we're going to go to field work, we're going to go to that, I'm going to go to 39 mow and collect, which is the one we used for the mowing if you remember, and obviously it's done the merging for us. So we're going to put that behind there, and then we're going to go first waypoint, no offsets or anything. Working width will be 2.8 meters, but we can ignore that, and then we're just going to click start. So I've updated my Courseplay now. The last time I tried this, it did actually stop to discharge the bale into the wrapper. Just want to watch carefully what it actually does since I've updated it. Still, I mean the actual DLC is only a couple of weeks old now, so they might not have had a chance to update it. They might not update it at all. I just don't know. But you can see there it does like half a bale almost, and then discharges it into there. And actually, look at that, it's worked. Before I updated to 6.2.37, it was stopping before discharging it onto the bale wrapper, but you can see now it's just non-stop, and this is going to be so much quicker than the Claas. I mean, if we go into the shop, it's not that much more expensive. It's not you know, there's not a huge gap between it. So we've got the Claas, which is the one I like to use, it's 78,000, and that's 110, which I don't think is a lot more considering how fast it is at baling. You can just see it's just eating through the bales non-stop. Put some into the pre-chamber, that gets emptied into the main chamber, and it just continues like that. I was going to do actually a head-to-head between the Claas and the Kverneland, just because it was stopping, but I don't need to. You can just plainly see that this whole system is so much quicker. So we've missed out an entire stop with the rake in, and now we're just completely eating through the bales really quickly, which does mean that you're going to have to be really quick in going around the headland and making sure it is clear of bales. You're still going to have the same trouble, so I've just got this JCB, upgraded my JCB fast track a little bit to something a little bit better, and I've got the Anderson trailer on the back as well. But I still, when I'm playing the game with my normal playthrough, I would do a little nudge on the bale. I just feel it's so much more realistic than picking the bale up sideways. So yeah, just do that, get that bale. It's, you know, you can just imagine how many bales you could be producing, depending on how many fields you own, of course, and how big those fields are. But you could be turning around a field in a matter of minutes, not quite that, but in definitely under an hour from mowing to collecting the last bale. It's just a really quick system. I'm glad that's been updated. I'm glad I updated my Courseplay just to make sure it was that. You're never too sure with the new DLC how they'll work like that. So there we are. Basically, we've mowed and baled and wrapped all in only a couple of passes, and this will earn us, I think each trailer usually earns me about 20 to 30,000 per loaded Anderson trailer and 24 bales on the back, maybe more. It is a good way to earn money, especially when you're starting off, because that system I showed you at the very start with only 2, maybe 3 tractors, you can definitely get it with the money that you start with on the beginner, not the beginner, the one where you just have money, no lands, and maybe a little bit of a loan as well, just to get you started, and you can be earning quite a lot of money from bales very early on in the game. So he's wrapping quite happily. He's just, you can see that actually it's struggling a little bit. Actually, that is a tight corner, that's more than 360, isn't it? He's just kind of having to go right back on himself. Let's just wait and see what he does, because this is a bit more of a right angle to the field, but it's still perhaps a little bit of a challenge to get round in a single turn, but he's almost managing it. The good thing with Courseplay is it is good at reversing and straightening up, so it will straighten up and things like that and get the entire row, but it just, when it's straightening up, obviously it's costing you time all the while, so it's just eating into your time, having to do those little manoeuvres just to straighten up and get that bale. Didn't quite push it, but never mind. But yeah, it's just a really good system. Now here's a good example of why you need to get those bales collected, the wrapped bales collected quickly. He's having an awful time of getting over that bale. He's managed it, and he is going back on the course, which is amazing, but sometimes it doesn't work out quite like that, so you really do have to be quick and collect all those bales. I was too busy talking and things like that and messing about than actually getting bales picked up, which you need to do quickly. So we're going to get this one. Let's give it a nudge. Let's try and play realistically, although no, I've ruined it. I've completely torn all the foil now on that. But yeah, got a good load of bales, and there's one last one there on the headland itself to get. I definitely recommend the Anderson trailer for picking up bales. It's just so much quicker, definitely easier than using a telehandler to do the same job onto a trailer, but it's that's down to personal preference. Now once we come to get these bales sold, we're just going to record a basic course. Well, I would anyway. Generally what I tend to do early on in the game is, let's say for example, let's get the map up, I'll find all my bonds, and then what I will do is, as I'm playing the game, I'll find which is the best price. So it is, which one is it? Is it that one or that one? It's gonna be no, it's that one, isn't it? So I'd find which is the best price. So be Oakfield Farm barn is 400. I'd click on that, see where that is on the map, which is over there, and then I would record a driving course to the barn and get these bales sold there. And as each of the farms or the barns have better prices, I'll record courses to each, but only as I have to make the trip, and then you only have to make the trip once. And again, it's just saving you so much time on that driving, especially down to, that's quite a long drive to get down to there, so again, just saves you time on that. So there we are. I hope I've explained that. Just before I finish though, I do play with Maze Plus on my proper playthrough, but I haven't put it on this one just for simplicity on this particular save. But if you are using Maze Plus, you might know this already, but there should be, or there isn't. There's the Vicon FB3135, which is also a fast bale wrapper, baler and bale wrapper. But with Maze Plus there should be a alfalfa version, because if you record a course play for alfalfa, it's pretty much identical to grass, because you're still mowing it and you're still raking it or merging it and collecting it. But the standard, so as far as I can make out, the Claas and the new Kverneland won't wrap the alfalfa bales. You do have to, there's a special Vicon FB, whatever that is, 3135 further down, which says alfalfa, and that will wrap the alfalfa and turn that into alfalfa silage, which is obviously worth more than just general wrapped alfalfa. So if you do want to use Courseplay for alfalfa, then it is just important to make sure you do have the right one. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with these yet. It might get updated, I don't know, but as of today, as of recording this episode, it didn't work with the Claas Rollant that I tried anyway. It was just spitting out standard alfalfa bales and they weren't being wrapped and turned into silage. So I hope you found that useful, interesting. If you have, please do hit that like button. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. But this should really speed up your silage making process and should earn you quite a lot of money. Definitely worthwhile at the very beginning of the game to just get some cash rolling in really quickly. So I'm going to leave it there for today and say until next time, bye bye.